Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Sometimes the best way to find a living is to stay right where you are and study with UAS online. Career-specific distance programs from the University of Alaska Southeast are the fastest way to increase your earning power.
We connect all over the world.
The National Weather Service.
Welcome to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Perry Danny. This is your weather for tonight, March 26, 2016. You can follow us on www.arh.noaa.gov, also on Facebook and Twitter. Starting off with tonight's hazards, we still have this wintry snow advisory. It remains in effect through 4 a.m. Sunday. And that's for the upper Kobuk and the Noatak valleys. And look for 3 to 7 inches of snow, mainly north of Ambler. And then in the Kuskokwim Delta region, we have another winter snow advisory. That's for blowing snow, and that's going to be for Sunday evening through Monday afternoon. Look for visibilities reaching half a mile less at times and gusty winds. Then also in the Bering, we have a winter blizzard warning here for the Pribilofs for St. Paul and St. George Island, and that's going to be from Sunday morning through Monday afternoon, Monday morning. And that'll be for visibilities a quarter mile less with strong easterly winds that are gusty and producing blowing snow with low visibilities. Starting off with the satellite, put in the loop here, we have a occluded low here that's just sitting off the Yakutat region with a trailing occluded front extending along the southeast panhandle, and that's bringing conditions here with a large swath of moisture moving in through the British Columbia region, also the southeast, and over into the portions of the Copper River Basin and northern coastline here. Looking farther out in the west here, the western Aleutians, we have another strong occluded system right here, just south of the chain here, the western Aleutians, and a large swath of moisture extending from south of Dutch Harbor all the way through the pretty much a lower central and western Bering, with a trailing occluded front in this region and a triple point low forming in this region. Farther north, there's a weak system right here, just east of the, or south of the Brooks Range, and that has a trailing front extending down into the YK Delta region, and that's bringing some cooler air on the backside, producing some plenty of snow showers in this region, also along the Brooks Range. And farther north, along the Arctic Village and the Arctic coastline, eastern portion, you have a trailing stationary front, and that's helping to produce some wintry conditions up here in that region. Over the Gulf, pretty much you have this clearer section here with plenty of clear skies, as well as on the southeast. You have a little bit of clouds farther south, but that'll clear up as this system continues to move inland and dissipate. And through the Bering, you have the continued low stratus being pushed down with a northerly flow. That continues to be plenty of cloud cover over the northern Bering and reaching down into the St. Matthew region air also. A few open pockets here in the central Bering Sea. Today's weather, again, this low pressure system sitting here just south of the Brooks Range, and again I mentioned that trailing cold front. You have the snow showers on the backside, reaching from the Seward Peninsula all the way down into the YK Delta region, and then that stationary front sitting over the Arctic Village region. So you have easterly winds, northeast, and blowing snow issues there, and a few scattered snow showers there just south of Barrow. And again, the southeast, you have this westerly flow in here as this occluded front is pushing on shore. It's producing some light rain on the southeast panhandle, and some pretty much high clouds moving over here into the the Copper River Basin and moving a little bit farther north along the border. Along the central to western Aleutians, you have the triple point low formed here just over Dutch region with a trailing warm front, and that's bringing strong, warm southerly winds into the eastern Aleutians here, and they'll cross over into the Bering, and pretty much all easterly flow, strong gradient through this region, and still warm conditions out here over the western Aleutians, over for Shemya, but that'll change in the next 24 hours as the cooler air gets down here and help the mix and change over to mostly snow there on the western Aleutians. For tonight's forecast, this system that's farther north, just over the Arctic Village region, will continue to fall apart, and then the trailing front extending down through the central interior or into the YK Delta region, and that'll bring a wintry mix over the lower and Kuskokwim Valley and farther north through the Tanana region there. Farther north, you're going to have on the backside of this system the northerly winds and the cooler air, so you have snow and scattered snow showers, sometimes numerous in different pockets. And then with this condition here, you're going to have the strong occluded front helping to bring easterly and plenty of warm air in here. So you get a wintry mix along the chain of lower southern portions of the Bering Sea. There to the central, where the Pribilofs, you're going to have the conditions, the blowing snow conditions starting to come into effect. Not quite blizzard yet, but they'll be coming into by tomorrow. The southeast panhandle, you have that occluded low that's falling apart, and it's pretty much just a weak trough that's rained behind it, and you have this ridge of high pressure that'll move in right behind it, and that'll help to clear out skies as this trough moves through. So look for nice conditions there leading in tomorrow. For Sunday's forecast, again, this trailing low that's just gradually filling. Again, it'll continue to produce scattered snow showers in numerous, sometimes in different locations through the Brooks Range and up to the Arctic coastline. So look for those conditions in northeasterly flow. You'll have a dry slot in here from the Seward Peninsula up to Barrow. So you'll have partly sunny skies for tomorrow in that region, and a few snow showers over the lower Chukchi Sea. The occluded low, that system that we've been talking about, will move farther east here, and the triple point low that was, and that'll gradually fall apart with a weak occluded front extending out into the North Pacific here. Let's bring a wintry mix along the Alaska Peninsula as it extends over to the eastern Kenai, as well as into the Prince William Sound region. Now for Sunday, you're going to have that tight gradient forming and that cooler air that's being pushed down. It'll bring your blowing snow and stronger conditions there at the Pribilofs, so that's why they issued that warning. And then that'll extend all the way, that colder air, extend all the way back to the western Aleutians to Shemya, so that's continued snow for those conditions. And then in the southeast panhandle, you have a weak disturbance moving through. That'll kick off a few light rain over the southeast panhandle. Otherwise, you'll have some breaks later on in the afternoon. Monday's forecast, these two double barrel lows right here, that's pretty weak, and you have this warm front extending through the northern Gulf here. The main feature here is going to be this strong push of southerly flow and a strong push of plenty of moisture coming into the northern central mainland. So a lot of rain on its way for us. We'll see how much we're going to get in that. They'll be watching that closely. And then through the YK Delta, that low will be extending with a stationary front, extending through the central region over into just south of the Brooks Range. And on the north side, you'll have all snow with the cooler temperatures. And look for the Kuskokwim Delta with the stronger gradient there and the colder air setting up in there and moisture, so you'll have blowing snow issues there, and that's why they've issued blowing snow advisory for the Kuskokwim Delta. Farther out west, you're going to have pretty much scattered showers through the snow showers through the Bering, and then you get with a weak trough extending just through the western Aleutians. That'll clear out some things, but a little bit of moisture left over here over the central Aleutians, nothing major. And in the southeast, with that strong southerly push, again, strong southerly winds coming in there, and then more rain on its way. So that's going to be the key feature coming in. Temperatures as 1 p.m. today, starting off with the southeast, we had, again, no surprise, temperatures all in the lower to mid 40s for the southeast panhandle with a southerly push and plenty of warm air on its way. It looks like AKwx came in at 45. Over the northern Gulf, you had 40 temperatures, temperature of 40 at Anchorage, 44 at Seward, down at 38 at Homer. Farther down the chain here, you had 44 at Kodiak, and then along the Alaska Peninsula, pretty much in the upper 30s to the high of 43 there at Sand Point. Now for the Arctic region, again, no surprise, the cooler temperature up here north with the colder air. You had 3 degrees at Dead Horse. Look at lowest temperature this afternoon was -8 at Point Lay. And going on down at Tin City at -4, and then at St. Lawrence, Gamble, you had 7 degrees there. So again, the cooler temperatures again are right behind that trailing cold front and the northerly flow here. Temperatures along the southwest Bristol Bay region, again, we're on the warm side with all this southerly flow pushing in here. Your temperatures in the mid-30s. In Cape Newnan came at 33. The Pervolofts are starting to cool down a little bit, 27 at St. Paul. So plenty cold enough there for the blizzard warning coming in here with the cooler temperatures. And the Shemya, it's reaching 34 out at Shemya, so that's getting that northerly flow and the colder air reaching down into that region. Tonight's low temperatures, again, they're going to be along the northwest coastline, -15 there at Wainwright, -2 at Dead Horse as you go down. Tin City coming in at -8. Excuse me, that was Point Hope, and then Tin City coming at -9. It's extending all the way down here. You have Dillingham coming in at 26, and then along the Aleutian chains are going to be in pretty much the mid-30s, and all the way out to mid-30s to Shemya too, with a warm southerly push, southeasterly flow, I should say, coming in there with a included front. The southeast, again, continued southerly flow, warmer temperatures. Tonight's low temperatures are going to be still pretty high there, high of 41 there at AKwx. Tomorrow's high temperatures, no surprise, all in the pretty much mid-40s with this strong southerly push up here. So you'll see that extending all. It's starting to cool a little bit. You get up to Yukon Valley, and then the coolest temperatures again will be along the northwest and Arctic coastline there, with the lowest temperature -4 at Barrow. And then as you go down to that cooler air, it starts getting modified a little bit, but still 14 coming there at Gamble. For the southeast, no surprise to see the temperatures there in the mid-40s, and the high temperature looks at AKwx coming in at 47, as well as Sitka coming in at 47. Tomorrow's flying weather, the marginal to IFR conditions are going to be over the Arctic, the Brooks Range and the Arctic Range, Arctic coastline that is, and that's going to be with that system that's with a weak stationary front in that region there. And then as you extend down, you have that cold front extending through the lower and upper Kuskokwim Valley, so you got that region there, and also along the Alaska Range. Then with that occluded front and that stationary, not stationary, but the warm front extending through just south of the Dutch Harbor here, so you have a swath there, the lower conditions. Then the southeast, the onshore flow with that weak trough pushing in, you're going to have that marginal to IFR conditions over the southeast panhandle. Tomorrow's flying weather, AKwx, IFR conditions. Adigan, IFR conditions. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR. Rainy, marginal VFR. Windy, marginal VFR. Isabel, marginal to VFR conditions. Mentasca, VFR conditions. Tanita, marginal to VFR conditions. Portage, marginal VFR conditions. Chillicook and White, marginal VFR conditions. And then tomorrow's freezing levels, again with the cooler air coming down here, you have the surface freezing level reaching down to the Pribilofs, and you're already seeing that with temperatures of 27 there at the Pribilofs. And then as you go farther north, you're going with that colder air coming in, starting to lower in the Anchorage and the London, Alaska range as well as reaching down into the southeast panhandle. But with the warmer temperatures coming up into the Gulf here with this southerly flow, you're going to continue to see the freezing levels starting to rise even higher. So look for those conditions to improve throughout the next couple of days. Tomorrow's icing, again, with extending through the western Bristol Bay region here, all the way out to the Shemya region. You'll have 7,000 to 10,000 with that swath with that front and that region there. And farther north with that low pressure system just sitting over the Arctic Village region or eastern Brooks range, you're going to have between 2,000 to 9,000 light to isolated moderate. Tomorrow's jet stream has, again, same pattern. You have that weak, strong low just setting south of the western Aleutians. You have a finger of a northeasterly jet going through that region. Then farther in the northwest Pacific, you have the strong northwesterly flow here, 170 knots, still 160, and then transitions to more southerly, 155 knots going into the southeast in the Alaska range in the northern Gulf here. And again, that high pressure sitting south farther in the North Pacific. So that strong southerly flow here is going to bring this continued strong warm air pushing into the northern Gulf. Over in the southeast, you have a northwesterly jet digging down into the lower 48, and that'll pretty much remain the same. Over the eastern Siberian and the western Brooks range, you have a westerly jet, small, weak one, 65 knots, and then a westerly jet, weak one, 60 knots, sitting over the Kamchatka Peninsula. Tomorrow's 9,000 foot winds. You got these double barrel lows sitting here over the western Aleutians there. And south of the western Aleutians, you have southwesterly flow out ahead of them, 30 to 40 knots, and then it transitions on the backside over the Bering to northeast, 30 to 40 knots. Farther north, you have a weak southwesterly flow over the northwest coastline, and then westerly flow there, 20 knots over the eastern Beaufort Sea. And then southwest, over the Gulf that is, you have that strong southerly push with that you just mentioned that jet stream, that strong jet coming up this way. So you have continued 9,000 feet being reflected that way, 50 to 35 knots. Then it weakens as you get into the British Columbia area, 10 to 20 knots westerly flow. And then with tomorrow's 3,000 foot winds, again, the double barrel lows remain pretty much in the same location. Weaker winds on the Pacific side, and then transition to easterly. You get that strong little gray setting up in here over the Bering, so that's 40 to 45 knots, and then a little weaker with the high pressure sitting over the Kamchatka Peninsula. So weak northeast winds there. Farther north over the northern Gulf and northern Bering Sea, that is, sorry about that, you'll have, and over the Arctic range, you have southwesterly winds 15 to 10 knots. The Gulf, you have southerly push again, a strong 50 to 40 knots coming in, and then a transition to southwesterly 15 to 10 knots over the interior. Tomorrow's turbulence, below 4,000 over the western Aleutians, and also below 4,000 over the western Capes. That's it for your weather. We'll be right back with the Marines.
The beach on the southeast side of Montague Island stretches for nearly 80 miles of pristine wilderness. At least it looks pristine from a few thousand feet up. As our helicopter descends towards the shore, big chunks of white styrofoam come into view.
You see all the big globs of styrofoam? That's all tsunami debris. Yeah, there's definitely, there's more styrofoam out here. There's no question.
Chris Pallister would know. He's president of the nonprofit Gulf of Alaska Keeper. The group has been cleaning up marine debris that washes onto Alaska's shores for 11 years. And when the tsunami debris began arriving last spring, their job got a whole lot harder. Pallister has visited Montague Island nearly a dozen times since then. And by the time we land and step onto the pebble beach, he's shaking his head in disgust.
I mean, you're basically standing in a landfill out here.
Pallister points to an area scattered with styrofoam bits smaller than packing peanuts.
So you see what's happening here with all the crushed up styrofoam now? This is what we're worried about. This styrofoam's just going to get all ground up, and you can see there's just be billions, trillions of little bits of styrofoam scattered all over everything.
The smaller it gets, the more concerning it is.
The smaller it gets, little pieces like this, is virtually impossible to clean it up. I mean, to clean this up right here, you have to take out all this organic matter with it, and extrapolate that all up and down this coastline. It's kind of an impossible job.
The trash is not just an eyesore. Pallister says voles, birds, and even bears are eating the styrofoam and plastic. He's also worried about chemicals. Among the debris, he finds containers that held kerosene, gas, and other petroleum products. Even the little containers worry him. Sifting through the trash, he picks up a small blue bottle and unscrews the cap to inspect its contents.
I have no idea what this was. It looks like just dish soap, maybe, laundry detergent, but it's empty, which is maybe not a good sign. But there's thousands of bottles like this all up and down the coast, from small household chemical items to drums full of chemicals, big industrial-sized drums.
Marine debris is not a new issue in Alaska, but the Japanese tsunami has magnified the problem many times over. Pallister says the tsunami debris doesn't have the visceral impact of the Exxon Valdez spill, with oiled animals and blackened coastlines, but he thinks in the long run it could be a bigger environmental disaster.
In a lot of ways, it's a lot worse than the oil spill, both in the geographic scope of it and the chemicals that are coming with it. And who knows what the impacts are going to be. And they're going to be really difficult to measure because they're spread out spatially. And, it's going to be a very difficult scientific issue to sort that all out, I think.
Officially, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has only recorded 20 tsunami debris items that have landed in Alaska, but the agency will only confirm an object if it has a unique identifier that can be traced back to Japan. The state of Alaska does not use the same strict standard. Last summer, the state paid for an aerial survey to inspect 2,500 miles of Alaska's coastline. Elaine Bussey-Floyd is acting director of the Division of Environmental Health. She says the survey identified tsunami debris all along the flight path from southern southeast up to Prince William Sound and out the Alaska Peninsula.
There was tsunami debris literally on every beach that was photographed. They took over 8,000 pictures, and it was more widespread and greater quantities than we even expected.
But so far, there has been minimal funding for cleaning up the debris. Governor Sean Parnell didn't include any tsunami debris funding in his budget. NOAA is figuring out how to distribute a $5 million gift from Japan, and Alaska's congressional delegation is working to get federal funds. But tsunami debris cleanup money was stripped from a bill for Hurricane Sandy relief that passed this week.
Look at this mess here.
Back on the beach, as the waves crash in, Chris Pallister says the debris could have serious impacts on fisheries and subsistence resources.
I don't know if it's being taken seriously enough. I don't think a lot of people that are going to be impacted by it know how bad it is right now. And until that gets out, maybe not much is going to happen. But I think we're kind of getting to the tipping point now where a lot of people in the state and federal agencies realize the gravity of this situation, and they're all working pretty hard now to get a handle on the scope of the problem and trying to develop funding sources. But as of yet, that hasn't happened. But it's a huge problem. It's going to take years to clean this mess up.
Pallister guesses it will take tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars to remove the debris. On this day, though, he has to leave it all on the island.
All right, we better go back.
Okay. We take off in the helicopter and head north along the beach. Pallister looks out the window at all the debris below and says it just goes on and on and on. On Montague Island, I'm Annie Fight. It's a brilliantly sunny day in early March, and Pallister's visiting Montague to get a handle on how much new debris washed up on the island over the winter. He also needs to check on debris his crew collected into heavy-duty bags called super sacks last summer. Pallister wants to make sure they held up over the punishing winter months. Pallister measures debris not by the pound, but by the ton. And on outer Montague Island, he estimates there's 20 to 30 tons of debris per mile. He guesses about half of it is from the tsunami and half is the usual marine trash that's been washing up in increasing amounts for decades. Last summer, he used funding from the legislature and other sources to begin cleaning up the first 3 miles of the island's coast.
There's another almost 70 miles to do on this shoreline. And we spent probably close to 60 days cleaning these few miles that we did here. So this is a huge, huge problem. This island is really bad.
The state identified Montague as one of 9 priority areas for tsunami debris cleanup. There are other hotspots from the southern tip of Southeast and as far west as the islands off of Kodiak. Japan gave the United States $5 million for cleaning up debris in all the West Coast states. So far, Alaska has received the biggest chunk of that money, $1 million. Alaska's situation is vast coastline, often inaccessible even to small landing craft, combined with huge quantities of debris. He says it will cost millions more just to clean Montague.
There's actually a lot of new stuff here. People always ask me, why do you do this? Why would you keep doing this if it keeps coming back? And I just tell them that you clean your kitchen counters. This is where we get our sustenance in this state. The intertidal area is where a lot of our fishing resources and all that came from. So I say this is our kitchen counter, and a rational person keeps their kitchen counters clean.
Welcome back to Alaska weather. Start off with the southeast. You're going to have southerly winds in the inside, outside waters, small craft winds, westerly flow. For southeast for Monday, southerly winds on the outside waters and as well as the inside waters. For the Sunday, south central, southerly winds, small craft on the western Gulf, and then the inside northeasterly flow coming up the Cook Inlet, and then easterly flow through the Shelikof Strait. Monday, pretty much all southerly flow on the interior southwest waters there, and the southerly flow through the northern Cook Range, Cook Inlet, and then southwesterly flow through the Shelikof Strait. Sunday's marine forecast, southerly flow Pacific side, easterly flow on the Bering side. That's your marine weather. Thank you for.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Alyeska Pipeline Service Company, sustaining Alaska's pipeline and its operations today and into the future.